Okay, and we're live, Anna. Welcome to Sportscast ZA.
Thank
How are
you.
you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. Thanks for making time for me. I hope the sound doesn't make nonsense too much. Because obviously we're on a cricket field as well, so the groundsman's busy doing his job there. Um, would you like to begin by introducing yourself?
Okay, yes. My name is Anna Mudlovo. I am a Mozambican. I'm a basketball professional player and coach.
Okay, that's awesome. Tell us a bit about what it was like growing up in Mozambique and how does that relate to like your earliest days in South Africa as well?
Um, Saying that, okay, let me start from in Mozambique, our cultures, it's much, let me say, we live in an environment where things they move a little bit slow,
Okay, so
right?
more relaxed.
Yeah, more relaxed, and it contributes a lot our for us to grow because you don't have to worry about a lot of things like
No pressure,
no
you're more
pressure,
calm.
more calm, like the criminality also is not that bad. So switching my life to this side was a little bit tricky because I moved this side. I was very young,
Yes.
like 18.
Okay.
So I had to stay in a house school, right, with my teammates,
Yeah.
and it was tricky to be honest because I'm not used to be alone in the world in that young age.
Of
Yeah.
course. So you when you arrived in South Africa you went straight into varsity and you lived
Yes.
on campus.
Yes.
How did that come about? How did you end up at I know you went to VUT. How did you end up there from Mozambique?
Okay. What happened is that we had trials for under 18 national team. So then there was also an opportunity to go for a camp organized by the NBA that is called Basketball Without Borders in Angola.
Nice.
So my coach selected a couple of players and I was included. So the we went to the camp that was hosted in Angola at Kilamba. So it took like 4 days, right? So in that 4 days, we get to connect with a lot of people, like from states, some from Africa. So in those days, I managed to make connections with a couple of coaches that they liked my performance during the camp. So they asked me what are your plans for next year? And then I said, my plan is that I might try to apply for a varsity at home. So, and then they said if it doesn't work, because at home for you to get in a varsity, you have to write an exam. It's not like here, they take your marks and then you wait for the acceptance letter. Then you have
Oh,
to actually go and write an exam.
yeah.
So I made them aware about that, and then they said, what if we try to get you a scholarship? And then I said, that's great, right? But in the same time, I was scared that I'm like, this is a new world for me to accept that.
New
But
country,
exactly, new language, new
new language, new
culture.
cultures.
Exactly,
Because we have so many cultures as well.
exactly. So I took that as a challenge, and then they said we can exchange numbers just in case maybe if your varsity in Mozambique doesn't go well, maybe you can contact us. So I went home, I thought about it, and then I think when I was approaching my metric exams, that's when I decided to talk to them. So that I can have two options on the table,
Of course.
right? So
The
I
more
spoke
the merrier.
exactly. So I went to write the exams, but let me say I didn't study much for the exam because I was already
On the
on the
road
run.
touring.
Exactly. So I was on the run also to try to get the scholarship done because I got a scholarship. That's how I made it this year.
Yes.
Yes. So the scholarship was given to me the same year. So that's why I started applying for the visas and everything. So I didn't have enough time to study for the exam because the exam was in January first week.
Yes.
And then the second week I was supposed to come this side.
Yes.
So I didn't have much time.
Yeah.
So yes,
So it
that's
was
how
an easier decision because now you're missing the exam, but you have a scholarship. So I'd
exactly.
rather just
So
skip the exam in Mozambique and just come to South Africa.
exactly. Yeah.
No, that's incredible. Shout out to VUT. Would you say you had more options on the table at the time, or was like perhaps one of the VUT coaches part of that uh, basketball without borders?
It was actually a friend of my beauty coach that spoke with him, saying that because apparently he was looking for a point guard,
Yes.
right? That's the position that I usually play. So he said he was looking for a point guard. It doesn't matter where she's coming from because everything was going to, all the expenses they were going to be covered. So that's when he introduced the beauty coach to me to say he's going to talk to you, he's going to tell you what you need to do or what are you expecting
Yes.
from the school. So once I arrived at beauty and then I started playing, now the other opportunities they started coming. But I also didn't want to feel like a traitor to leave the school that brought me here to
Yes.
go and join the other school.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Fair
So,
enough.
yeah.
Yeah, that's look. Loyalty, I think, is something that's very rare these days.
Exactly.
So well done to you for being loyal. I believe in being true to yourself, number one,
Yeah.
and therefore you can be true to others. You know, it becomes so much easier
Exactly. You don't have
not
to
to
live
get.
with the guiltness.
Yeah,
Also.
yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like to share some of your, like, where did basketball start? I'm gonna assume because you had basketball when you were 18. Which year would we say that was?
Actually, I started basketball. I started playing basketball. I was 11
Okay.
years, and it
So you
was
guys had basketball from that early on in your lives
yes.
already.
In my country, we start. Okay, let me say in the clubs, in the basketball club, you can join even starting from 5, right? But in the school program, basketball starts at the grade 6.
Okay. Which is
Actually, grade
grade
5. Grade
11.
5, yes.
Actually 11.
So
Yeah.
5, year 10, right? Because we start school with 6 at home.
Okay.
Yes. So I started with 11, but it wasn't by choice, right? Because I started, actually, the first sport I played was soccer.
Okay.
Yes, and then my uncle used to tell me I have to switch sports because he doesn't like the fact that I was always playing with my cousins
With
and
the boys. Yeah.
Exactly. So he said, no, you should find the sport that is most suitable for girls. So he suggested either you pick volleyball or basketball or swimming. And in my neighborhood, right, let me say my neighborhood contributed a lot for my growth because I was surrounded by neighbors who mostly play basketball in the neighborhood because we had a community court that is part of my school where I studied.
Yes.
And also, I think it's the fact that I used to watch my brother play, but he used to play for fun.
Yeah.
Right. So the time that I actually started taking basketball serious in a club, that's when I was 13. That's when I joined the club because a friend of my brother was saying, the level that you are, you're not supposed to be playing community
Basketball,
So
just in the kasi there.
yeah,
You need to
exactly.
take
So
this thing
you have to
serious.
take it up there. So when I turned 16, that's when I first played for the under 16 national team. That's when we went to Madagascar. It was a very great experience. I think it's a dream of any basketball player or any player, everyone that anyone
Yeah, any
that
sportsman.
does
You want to
sports.
represent your country.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter which
Yeah,
age.
it doesn't matter which age and which sporting code, as long as you leave a mark that everyone's gonna say, we saw you.
No, absolutely. I think that's why we play sport ultimately. For some of us, we don't get to go there,
Exactly.
uh, but there's still a lot of other avenues that sport provides. Fortunately, you know, there's coaching, there's umpiring, you know, there's so many other things to do within sport, and I guess that's what makes sport so fun to be a part of. Because, like for me, when I decided, okay, my playing is not working out,
Yeah.
I need to decide now: am I gonna keep trying, or am I gonna
Branch.
rather branch out and
Yeah.
fully focus on coaching? And I always say, like, I couldn't be happier with the decision I made. You know, I guess for you, um, just jumping ahead a bit, because you speak about, you know, representing your country. Do you still have aspirations to play at that level?
Right now, I feel like it's my view now is playing overseas if I get the opportunity. Not that I wouldn't like to play for my country, but I just feel like I want to explore other options.
Yes, perhaps like NBA club somewhere where you can optionally go to your country whenever they have a fixture. You could fly out there and go and play and then go back. No, that's amazing. Would you like to share some of your earlier experiences when you got to South Africa? What was that like? Because that's like fresh start, just out of school into varsity. That's literally in the deep end.
Yeah, yeah, it was tricky. I think for me to adjust, it took me like maybe 2 years. I think my first year was a little bit easier, not by connecting to people here, but because I used to have an auntie that was staying around. So every time I'll feel like I'm out of place, I'll just go there, and then obviously you feel like you're home. But for for the environment, like outside of family, it wasn't easy because first I used to have a language barrier, and my personality also, because I'm a shy person, so it was very difficult for me to approach people. And the minute that I tried to approach people, I always felt like I'm getting a cold shoulder because the language is a very big barrier here, because you speak English with certain people, right? And then they reply you in their
In
mother
Zulu
language.
or
Exactly.
Xhosa, yeah.
So now some they take that as an insult when maybe you
You're
try to
speaking
make a
English.
exactly. So they make you feel like you don't wanna be here, or you
And
don't wanna be in the same page that they put
and
it
they also
in.
just assume that you're part of their culture,
Exactly.
not knowing that you're
Yeah.
from
So the
Mozambique.
moment that they saw that, especially because I have my surname, it's common here. So some people they say there is no way your surname and your name, right?
Yes.
It's similar to ours, and you're telling us that you can't speak our home
Yeah.
language, right?
I think that's a bit unfair, but
Yeah,
anyway.
it was unfair for a couple of years, even with the teachers, because the lecturers, they used to say, you don't talk to anyone in class. I never see you with friends. Let me say, my friends at varsity they were my teammates,
Yeah.
right? Because those are the only people that
That
I
you
live in
knew.
the same house
Yeah.
also.
Nice.
So plus also what helped me to get more open about it, because in the house that we lived, there was a lot of African players, couple from Botswana, couple from Zimbabwe. So obviously at the house, most of the time we are all forced to speak English,
Yes.
because you can't speak your mother language with me. I
Yeah.
don't understand what you're saying. So I think that's what contributed for me to learn fast the language. But also people say I'm a fast learner when it comes to languages. It's
Yes.
just that I can't speak, but I can understand.
Yeah, yeah. I think understanding and just being able to greet, I guess, is the first barrier to entry.
Yeah.
That's why I enjoy, and hopefully before we leave, you
Yeah.
could teach me how to say, "Hi, how are you doing?" In
Portuguese.
Portuguese. But we'll get there a bit
Yeah.
later. Um, you obviously mentioned your uncle having spoken to you, making you decide to play basketball.
Yeah.
What role would you say your family played in this whole journey of yours?
Um, my family played a very supportive role, because remember, when you're living in a certain environment where people at your age, let's say your neighbors that you grew up with them, and then they start branching into bad habits, alcohol, drugs, and other things. So my family always made sure that I'd rather be committed to sports and academics. But sometimes, obviously, because my dad sometimes used to feel like I'm always out of the house doing sports.
Yes.
So sometimes he'll say, no, you don't have to go, you have exams and stuff like that. But my mom always used to say, like, if you're going to make her stop doing sports, what is she going to do?
What else will she choose to do?
Exactly. So she'll be forced to do what other kids are doing.
Yes.
That is what you don't want.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes I'll have to sneak out during exams, I know that some of the kids, every time when there's exams, they will actually say, "I have to study, I have to study." But obviously, I believe I was once a student athlete. You really need time to fresh your mind up. So by doing that, you have to go out, play sports, and then come back. You can come back and study. But other parents, they believe that you need like a 24 hours just inside the room studying. Yeah, but it doesn't work like that because I can be inside the room and then I take a nap. You know what I know?
Yeah.
So I rather take that time to go outside and do something that is freshen up my mind and then come back to study. So I believe sports actually also played a very big role by keeping me out of the streets. I think that's the best answer.
No, absolutely. I think
Yeah.
the same for me as well because I remember that's the only thing my mom wanted me to do. Like even my granny, like she would make sure that on a Saturday morning I have an energy or whatever the case may be, um, to go and enjoy myself.
Exactly.
And yeah, I think sport sport does that. You know, so if we can do that on a bigger scale for our more township rural communities, you know, that would change the lives of so many people. Um, that would rather side with, hey, let me go and coach or let me try and play rather than choosing, like you said, drugs, alcohol, and all those other things that, you know, I guess any parent would not want their kid to be a part of.
Exactly.
And then, Anna, you mentioned obviously when you were 16, you broke into the national team. Yes, that's very early on. That's like that's next level. Um, so well done for that. Since then, what would you say your professional path has been? Because it has been the under 16s, then varsity. I would consider that professional because you were on scholarship.
Yes.
So that's a professional thing to do.
Yes. Yes.
And then, what else would you say you achieved after that?
I played for the nationals, not only here. I keep playing in the national league here in South Africa, but I also a couple of times I went home to play for the national league in Mozambique, and also I have played in other countries like tournaments in Swaziland and another 3-on-3 FIBA 3-on-3 tournament in Botswana, right? Um, yeah, the list is big.
Yeah, no, you need to keep
But
going. That's how
yeah,
we is to dive deep so that you can reference this one day and you can go and watch the video and your kids will watch the video. So this is an opportunity for you to boast a little. So you can keep going if the list is that long.
Yeah, but I think my majority, like I was called for other clubs, like to go and represent them. But it's just that time on my side also. Sometimes you have to balance the opportunities. Plus now it's not just about sports career also because I have another path as a coach, so I need to balance both of them.
Yes.
Um, but in a basketball career, I had experience going out playing for tournaments and leagues, and not all of them were successful, but let me say I managed to leave a mark in all of them, right?
Absolutely.
So I
yeah.
think that's my biggest achievement.
Just by even being there,
Yes.
that's already the mark,
To be
right?
remembered, I think that's the one thing I always like when I go and play in other countries. It's not about the the championship, but it's also about the connections that you're gonna make that side.
Yeah, the network.
Yes.
I always say that like your network is your net worth. I think many of the business speakers also say that. I guess that's where I get that from, and it's absolutely true because you can pick up a call now and phone someone in another country. Next thing you're living in another country, you know. So it's important to um, network and not just play the sport and then years later you're like, oh, what do I do now? Who do I call? I have no one in my phone book to call. There's so many of those stories where people would just play the sport, maybe not even save or, you know, being a professional, you earn so much money, so you just it comes in and then goes out.
Goes
You're
out,
not
yeah.
making connections, so that's just setting yourself up for
Yeah,
failure.
because for instance, I'm gonna make a clear example when I went to the camp. So during the camp, they always, let me say, in the camp they select the most improved player throughout the whole tournament, the all star players and stuff like that. So I was part of those all star players. So the all star player just doesn't come with the performance inside the court. It also comes with the interaction with the coaches. You always have to present a question to the coaches. You always have to try to connect with other people, because what happened is that I think it's within every player. We always have that feeling like I cannot talk to those people. I cannot talk to these people. But those people actually they want to connect with you, but you're actually the one
You're
pushing
blocking
them
them.
away.
Yeah,
Right?
and that's perhaps why the coach wouldn't select.
Yes, exactly. So that's when I started understanding that actually connecting to
Oh,
people
okay.
it's very important,
Yes.
because um, it takes you not just to be remembered in that space, but one day someone's gonna say, "Oh, I remember this girl from Mozambique. I remember this guy from South Africa." So, for instance, there's people when they come to South Africa and they ask, "Are you still there?" Right? So that's the kind of connection you wanna create with people, so that when they need you or you need them, right? It doesn't matter for which circumstances, you know that there's someone that you can call.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so profound.
Yeah.
And I must say, so far, I'm really enjoying how this conversation's going. I didn't expect it to, like I said, it was
Notice.
short notice and all those things. But I think hopefully we record this correctly and it can live there for other people, to find
Yeah.
and to learn from your experiences as well. Speaking of experiences, what would you say were some of the key challenges that you faced back home? Because when you got to South Africa, you mentioned the language barrier and
Yeah.
how it took you 2 years to integrate yourself and understand the language and understand how to communicate and cultures. What would you say those were much earlier on, like between 11 and 16, let's say?
The challenges was, I think, the practice time, right? Because I used to have morning classes, and then afternoon I have practice, right? So the problem is will be I will have to arrive home late, because in some practice starts at 3, so it usually takes 2 hours, and then obviously you're gonna take another 30 minutes to change to go to the buses and stuff. So the time was a little bit tricky, because obviously I'm young, so my parents don't want me to be out of the house by that time.
Of course.
Not just not because of the level of criminality, it's just for safety.
Yeah.
I think every parent want their kid to be inside the house at latest
Yeah,
by
I'm in the
6.
house. You should be in the house.
Yes, by 6. So that was one thing, and schoolwork also. I think that's what also taught me to start managing when I got to varsity. Wasn't a big deal, because you have school in the morning, because our system starts from 7 to 12:30, right? And then you have to get home, help your mom with other things, and then that's when you have to rush
So
to
you
go to
actually have
practice.
time to do a lot of things because you go to school till 12. You
Yeah.
can help your mom between 12 and
12.
say 2, and
Yes, and
then
then I can go
get
to
ready for
practice.
training
Yes,
by
but it
3.
means when I come back now, I have to focus on school and then sleep. So I think the more you get used to that, it doesn't challenge you anymore. But yeah, that was a challenge for me.
No, that's awesome that you answered that because that's definitely one of my questions as to
Yeah.
how to balance sport, academics, and all the other things that we want to do. And I think just outlining your routine,
Yeah.
going to school till
Mhm.
12, helping mom till
Yeah.
about 2:30,
Yeah.
travel, get ready for
Yeah.
basketball. Now I can revisit the books, then I sleep. I think
Mhm.
that's fair to say a healthy enough sort of
Environment,
system,
yeah,
right?
system, yeah.
No, that's fantastic. And obviously, you mentioned, your uncle. I'm gonna assume is one of your mentors because he actually got you to
Yeah.
this. He kind of forced you to play. He was like, "Hey, you
Um,
need to play."
Okay, my mentor.
You need to choose a sport. So you
Yeah.
need to tell me a bit about your mentors. Um, I know you mentioned the coach that had selected you from VUT, or the person that put you in touch with the VUT coach. And who else? Obviously, it's going to be a long list.
Yeah.
But who comes to your mind in terms of mentorship?
In terms of mentorship, I can say it's my late coach from home. Because, okay, my uncle played a part by just influencing my parents to force me to
Yes,
change the
yes.
sport, right? Because obviously now your mom always gonna say, you see now your uncle is bothering me. Can you please do it and stuff like that. So I just made a call and then I was like, okay, let me try and see if it's fun like that. Because I always felt like soccer was more interesting, and then I started falling in love with actually athletics because we used to have this best runner in Mozambique. So I used to like watching him run, and I remember in my early ages, like my mom used to send me to the shop and say, hey, please go buy this. So every time I go to the shop, I'll sprint.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's when she started realizing like you're not a kind of girl that likes playing with dolls and
Yes.
stuff. You always want things
Outdoors,
to be
running,
yes,
jumping.
jumping. So my mentor, let me say someone who actually was there even when things were going south, even when I felt like maybe I'm just forcing. Um, my mom, yeah, my mom used to, because she said she used to play basketball also. So she always used to say like, people are gonna tell you stop this because now you're no longer focused on school and stuff. But the nice thing about me, I always was a committed student and I was a committed player. So I never left a gap to make them feel like you guys are not gonna make me stop playing basketball because my marks are dropping, right? So I would say my mom, my brother too, because when you start a new sport, they're always gonna tell you, no, you have to go and buy basketball shoes. But you look at your shoes like, I can't play with Air Forces, I
Yes.
can't play with All Stars. So my brother, I think, was the first person that said, no, if you are committed enough, I'll get you like your first kicks.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was my brother, my dad, my sister. Everyone tried to play sports, but I think I was the only one who decided to take sports serious. And then the outsider, obviously, I'm gonna tell my late coach because he always used to just sit down and talk. And I think the year that he passed away, I think I was finishing my metric. I couldn't believe because a day before we had practice, just like right now we're having a team talk. And then the next day, someone is calling and saying, "Nah, your coach is gone." And I was like, "No way!" So I went to practice, and then they told us, "No, he's gone, gone, gone." So
Wow. My sincere condolences.
thank you.
I hope you continue to strengthen yourself and grow and cherish those moments
Yeah,
and speak about him. So hopefully when you watch the video again, you can
exactly. Yeah,
shed a tear there in your bedroom.
yeah.
How have your milestones contributed to your personal growth and development?
Um, the challenges and the opportunities they contributed a lot because I feel like if I didn't face challenges, I wouldn't be where I am now. I think I would have been very comfortable and just let things go because sometimes you let things go because you just feel like there's no need for us to fight for it. So I always had that mindset where I have to, whatever I want to achieve, I have to put my head on it. I have to be committed and disciplined about it.
No, that's amazing. I think that's so well put. Um, and then in terms of leadership, what have the milestones in your career positioned you? Um, or let me rather ask this way: what milestones in your career has positioned you as a leader in your field? Obviously, we know you played national basketball, BNL.
Yeah.
Would those be those that put you like so? If someone in Joburg wants to start playing basketball, for example, would you say those are the milestones they should look at in terms of going to you as a coach to say, I've achieved this thing, um, therefore I'm qualified enough to coach your kid.
You're talking about the coaching.
Yes, from a
Part.
coaching perspective.
Um, I wouldn't really go to qualification. Not that I don't have. I have my level one in coaching. That I actually got it on my first year as a coach. So I'll go more about the experience, right? I have more experience in playing than coaching, but that
Yes.
also plays a role in my coaching skills because I believe when you play a position as a point guard, you are able to it's like when the coach say you're a point guard, it's like you are his eyes inside the court, you are his voice inside
Okay.
the court. Because you are the leader inside the court. You are the one who's gonna tell you what to do and where everyone has to be. Right. So I can say
Yeah, that's enormous amounts of experience
yes, yes.
over those teams that you've played in that position. So,
Yeah.
and the reason why I ask is because people are easy to go to how qualified are you, right? But they don't look at the experience. Because for me, in total, I've played cricket for I think 20 plus years. Like, and I'm only so old. You know, um, that has to surely count for something.
Exactly.
Because I was the one doing this thing. Then yes, I've been coaching for 11 years now. So after school, I then took up coaching, and yes, I've grown and understood how to coach. But the game still comes back to when you've
To
played
play,
it.
yeah.
Because we would achieve things, and there's a certain route to get there. It's like math. 1 plus 1 has to be two,
Two
right?
years.
It can't suddenly be three. So I just wanted to touch a bit on on where you're at in that regard. And then, what advice do you have for an aspiring basketball player?
For an inspiring, let me say for a young, for the youth, right? I feel like in order for them to be the kind of person that they want to be inside the court, right? First of all, it comes with discipline. Yeah, it comes with discipline because some players, right, they are naturally gifted. There's people that they don't have to go to the gym every day, but if you put them on the field, they'll give you whatever you want.
Yeah.
And then there's others that it only comes with commitment and discipline. You can see, last week you are running, it means you're at the gym.
Yes.
This week you're not running, it means
Something lacked this week.
Exactly. So I would actually advise that they always have to be disciplined and committed.
Okay, so yeah, that's I guess in most things in life to do anything, like to wake up consistently going to work. That takes discipline. Even though you get paid at the end of the month,
You have
some mornings,
some
you
mornings
can't
actually.
just rely on motivation, right? You can't just rely on the money. You have to be disciplined to get to the point where you get the money, which, yeah, that's, I think, quite simple enough. Um, and then, what sort of skills and routines would you say you use specifically for the position you play as a point guard?
For my position, first of all, I have to be fit, right? Because you are the engine of the team. You
So
understand?
fitness number one,
Fitness is
which you
number
always
one.
had because you would run to the shops all the time,
Yeah,
and
that
that
was
just
natural.
yeah, that's natural.
So individual training, right? Because individual training it helps you to grow yourself outside of the 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 the, the four teammates that you're gonna work with.
Yeah.
Because basketball we play with five people on
Yes.
the court. So you have to strengthen your skills. So meaning you have to train individually to correct where, for instance, maybe your coach was telling you, okay, you're not looking up, you're not passing properly, so you gotta work on that as individual.
Yes.
So that now when it's a team practice, these two items,
It just
right,
fits like a
just
glove,
fits
so to speak.
exactly. So fitness is the number one, and then basketball skills development. and the meditation, because you gotta be concentrated.
Yes.
Okay, I think meditation. Some people they find different ways of meditating. You can listen to music, you can dance. It's also part of it. You know, you can just do yoga and or actually meditate. So you just find different ways of just relaxing before the game.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just a few more questions. I have one here. I saw a kid in my community where I'm from, in like the south of Soweto, which is Alderaro Park,
Yeah.
and I saw this kid bouncing a basketball. So he's a friend of my brother,
Okay.
and I thought that was quite impressive to see. Firstly, he looks like he can ball, right?
Yeah.
So, what have you seen, and how do you think we can better implement certain things for kids like that who doesn't have a court? They just have the street. They have a ball, so they can just play at home, obviously. But how should we be looking and helping those players? Would you say, after everything you've learned and understood about BNL, there's obviously sports, arts, and culture. How do you think they can come together to implement um, basketball courts in communities that perhaps don't even play basketball?
Um, that's a big issue. Let me say in the country, because there's a lot of townships where there's a lot of kids with talent, not just basketball, other sports.
Yeah.
It's just that they don't get the exposure like the other kids that maybe live in the city. So I think a couple of days ago I was actually discussing with my colleagues about that, saying, what if one day we just start a program like for free and try to go to the townships and take those kids and create a team so that they come and play in the city so that they can be seen. I think by being seen, it's gonna open up opportunities for them, because
Absolutely.
there is, for instance, right now, Red Hill was playing at BNL, right? So Red Hill, let me say, it's part of the city, right? Saints and Red Hill, they're part of the city, but Soweto is in the township. So this was a platform for them to be seen.
Yes.
Obviously, some kids we didn't know them, but now because they were seen not just on a bigger picture, right, but also internationally, other people are watching them. So now
Yes.
at least they're gonna start seeing that basketball is not just in the city,
Yeah.
right? We also have basketball in the hood, right? So it's gonna be tricky because the sports government is mostly focused on the top sports, that is your soccer, your netball, your swimming, and athletics. So for us as basketball players to succeed, at least now is the platform is getting bigger, because we're hosting BAL. BAL is a basketball Africa League that is like similar to your NBA sort of. So
endorsed by NBA, of course.
yes, it's endorsed by NBA. So I think that is actually playing a big role, right? So now people are starting to be more focused on basketball. So it might take time for the basketball community to be implemented everywhere, in the city, in the hood, in the Kasi, all of that.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that question is because I always see an opportunity. Because I saw that kid,
Yeah.
and I immediately thought of you guys, my colleagues here,
Yeah.
right? How can we find a way to help that kid? Because that kid, I can tell you,
Yeah.
that kid can play.
You can go
And
far.
so you never know how many more there are, right? So I'm glad you mentioned that you spoke to your colleagues, that you guys are thinking of starting a program, because that's why I also started this platform, is so that when we have these ideas, hopefully someone can see this and say, hey, you had that idea, how can I help you in that idea? So hopefully we can, so always keep that idea, because I think about that kid, he's from my hood. It's a sport I never saw growing up. While there were courts, though. Yeah, there was a place where there were courts, um, but that was about it, you know. I would walk past the shop and we'd just shoot something and then just go home, but we didn't think too much about it. But I think, like, speaking about it, now we can say, okay, what do you guys have? What do I have? How can we, go and start something? That's ideally what I want to do. I want to give back as well.
To the community.
Yeah, 100%. And then a few more questions in terms of basketball. Um, Someone told me to ask you how many championships you've won.
I lost count, but I think over 10.
That's enormous amount.
Yeah, over 10.
10
That's
championships.
yeah,
That's great.
that's counting. I think let me say I'm counting everything like 3-on-3 championships, tournaments and leagues.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Oh, okay.
And then two more things.
Okay.
One, you need to teach me how to greet and say goodbye. Hopefully, I can remember, but now the more I see you, I'll, try
Yeah,
and
you're gonna try.
reinforce it, right? And then, secondly,
Yeah.
what do you aspire to be remembered as?
Okay, let me start with the aspiring, right? I think being remembered as someone who always was there for like any kind of situation, like supportive.
The go-to person.
Yes, the go-to person and the person that get what you want done. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And then how would I greet you in Portuguese?
It's much easier, like the same as you guys say here, hola. Right?
Hola. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
hola,
that's simple
how-
enough. I like that. I like when it's that easy.
Hola is so there is hola and then there's oi, so it means
Okay.
like there's your
So hola
hello.
or oi.
Hola is like your hello,
Yes.
and hi it's like your
Oi.
oi.
Okay.
Yes.
And then how would I say goodbye?
Ciao.
Ciao. Okay, so very similar to Italian then.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I know a bit of Italian.
Oh
You see,
yeah. So if
I,
you know
I
a
love
little bit,
languages,
if
so
yeah,
that's how I start. I love being
languages,
able to
interact
you
with
know
different people.
say, because ciao is also a greeting in Italian. So you say ciao, come sta?
Como estás is how are you?
Yeah, right. So yeah, Anna, thank you so much for your time,
Your pleasure.
and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Likewise.
doing this.
Sure.
Let me just switch off.